Yeah, but hey, as long as Nick doesn't replace me with AI, I will remain relevant. So our theme is smart city, smart people, smart planet, transforming global supply chain culture. I spent my career in supply chain for Northrop Grumman, and I went to many supply chain conferences over the years, and I'll tell you, this is the best of them all. This is really incredible. So enjoy what these incredible speakers and panelists have to say over the next couple days. If you haven't already, download the app vFairs, and you'll see the agenda, you'll see all the people that are here, and all you got to do is just enter your email address and you'll be good to go on the app. So, and very important, and I stress this especially to the younger people in the room, don't forget to network. Don't just stay with your friends. There's a lot of incredible people in this room, power players from companies in supply chain. Meet them. I encourage you. All right, let's get this party started to officially open our summit and share a global supply chain outlook. Please welcome the founding executive director of the USC Marshall Randall R. Kendrick Global Supply Chain Institute, Dr. Nick Valles.
Let's give a round of applause for being with us for over 10 years. Wink, you're amazing. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the 13th Annual Global Supply Chain Summit. Today we come together to share valuable insights, ignite innovations, and be intentional with our goals for the field that we all deeply love and care about. It is a true privilege to come together with such an inspiring group of educators, innovators, professionals, my students. This is a community that's going to move us forward for next decades to come. So as Vic mentioned, our theme today is smart city, smart people, smart planet. So the word smart somehow actually gets blended into key dimensions of our theme today. If we think about why, over the next 2 days, we want to really highlight that your investment in time and resources to be here, hopefully you walk away with some of the new insights and some of the things that we care and be concerned with, how to deal with it going forward. From geopolitical tensions, trade barriers, and acceleration of AI in our field, it's a defining moment how we think the world of supply chains going forward. This event, when you put together, the process starts the day we end the summit. Very next Monday, we're back at it, and we'll be back at it setting up for the 14th and the 15th and so forth. It takes a tremendous efforts, and I want to thank my board members, my committee members, my staff, sponsors, speakers, panelists. We have over 85 panelists and speakers lined up over the next 2 days to bring you the perspective, both the ground up and the top down. Our Trojan friends and family, all the friends across the world, the delegates traveling from Europe, Asia, to name the few, it is such a privilege to host you here. At the end of the day, we are global citizens, and it is our responsibility to ensure the systems we design, system we manage, the global network we create, the people, the communities, and the planet we live and share are also part of the equation. Over the next 2 days, I want all of you, really, my innovators, practitioners, students, policymakers, all of us to collaborate, work together, and build the next decades of excellence in terms of the resiliency, smart supply chain, smart city, people, and the planet. This year is our first year to introduce you an innovative startup and their transformative technology. So tomorrow you're going to actually hear 4 startups. They're going to pitch what they're doing different to disrupt our industry. This is just the beginning. Our future, 14th and beyond, we have an incredible landscape of innovation being integrated into our Global Supply Chain Summit. Why innovation? While we are caught up with the nuances of our conversation on the news bites, the world of AI is transforming and evolving at a speed of light. That needs to be part of our DNA. That needs to be part of our culture. That needs to be talked about it. The legacy thinking will no longer be acceptable going forward. And we want this platform to be your platform, that you get that information unbiasedly and readily available to you. I'm going to go over every year, as I do, with Outlook. So I thought about it, reflecting, trying to deliver this keynote for you, 2030 and beyond. How do we talk about smart cities, smart people, smart planet, navigating change and driving innovation? And the thought that I struggled with is I had over 100 opportunities to talk to the reporter, both on the live as well as the video settings, on the documentaries, to the news blogs, to the interviews. And almost every single one of them wants to know why things are happening the way they're happening. And in many cases, they want to put you in the corner to say, hey, do you like current practices and the policies from the government, or do you hate it? We want you to be on the record. Finding the truth in the world of nuances and the complexity. And the word truth, the reason it's highlighted, is that we are losing the capability of being able to seek it. Our culture has become the 15-second bites on the TikToks, or whatever the medium by which we consume the information becomes a reality for us. So today what I'm going to challenge you is, how do we really go about dissecting the world that we live in? So let's start with that. The world we inherit. Global trade. Absolutely. Let's not kid about it. The global trade flows are changing. The last 4 decades of practice will no longer be the practice of next decade and future decades to come. Fact. Persistent volatility driven by tariffs, geopolitical tensions, market fluctuations, and supply chain disruption. It's part of the practice that we're going to have to adopt and be agile about it. The next decades will be shaped by regionalization, digitization, and make no mistake, don't get caught up in the nuances, the sustainability is going to be the fabric of future. And I'm going to talk about why I highlighted the planet Earth in this slide, because there is something very deeper that transcends you and I and all of us and our industry or practices. So here's the conversations. When I talk to the reporters, I say, if you want to know how, let me actually make you understand why. To be an informed interviewer, you need to know the roots, the root cause of what caused all of these things to happen now. And then we can talk about the how. And how is always on the spectrum. Could we do something with the Swiss knife and scalpel our way through some of the trade policy decisions that has led us to where we are today? Or do we sledgehammer? And often it feels like we're sledgehammering our way in a global trade. But that's a spectrum. We can talk about it, we can have an opinion about it. What you cannot have an opinion about is the truth, how we got here, why we got here. So let's talk about the why This is a very important slide. I want you to reflect just for a second. I've taken 40 years, 4 decades of trade imbalance. You will never see this in the news media. You will not see the reporter who ever ask you a question about why we got here. But look at this slide. What does this tell us? It shows a significant deficit year over year. If I project this out to 2030, it would even look crazy scary. And if I project this out 2050 in a status quo, what we have done over the last 4 decades, our GDP consumption today is 68%. Every dollar we create out of our GDP, 68 cents, is what you and I go out and spend. Getting a cup of Starbucks, or a burrito, or buying whatever we buy, discretionary spending. All of those consumption base, what drives our GDP. 2030, that would have been 78%. 2050, that would have been 92%. No civilization can survive simply on a consumption at that rate while the deficit is booming. So we all agree this why is very important when we talk about the trade flows of today. The first spike that you see in this chart, which is very important, I want to show you that the first time in 57 years, US was able to balance the budget. That process started in '84 and the Reagan administration's Clinton administration was able to strike the balance. The trade deficit was low. Introduction of China into the World Trade Organization, pivotal point after 18 years of negotiation, led by US, having a firm vote of confidence for China to be in the World Trade Organization, and trade imbalances started to percolate. Does that mean that China did something wrong? Answer is no. Were the rules of the business change? Absolutely. But to have this steep decline, both sides of the aisle, right? And we're politically agnostic. We're supply chain professionals. We are focused on the policy. Both sides of the aisle kicked the can down for the last 3 decades, roughly, to be in this situation. So why it's imbalanced? The question might be, so Nick, tell us why we are imbalanced. The imbalance is because certain trade countries actually exports more than imports. So think about the country that consumes more versus country that actually produces more and exports it. What causes the imbalance? Now, do you have to have 1-to-1 ratio? This question gets asked. And the answer is no. So if I go and get my haircut with my hairdresser, and I pay her $100 for my haircut, do I expect her to buy a service of supply chain consulting from me for $100? And the answer is no. That'll be ridiculous. Right? We can't expect that every transactions we do. We used to do that 10,000 years ago. I had a bunch of apples, you have oranges, I said, I'll give you 2 of my apple, let me have 1 of your orange. That used to work 10,000 years ago, but we don't do that anymore. So the nuance here again is that we're not talking about transactionally being in balance, we're talking about in the gist. Can we be a little bit more balanced? You can't have a country that creates $1 trillion surplus, and you can't have a country that has a $750 billion in deficit. How does that work? So there are 2 ways to work, right? The tariff is a one way, which what's happening today, or it could be a non-tariff barriers, which a lot of countries tends to deploy. So from deficit to the disruption, this is the phase we're in. Average tariff rates across all commodities coming into the country, going back to 1975, was roughly, blended rate, was about 4%. Right? Since 2000, we actually lowered that to open up continued flow of the goods. Didn't do well for the trade deficit. Today is 9.5, and now you layer August 1st, where the baseline is 10%, and the stacking on top of it, it'll be roughly 18% tariff rates. Think about the size of the gap between 4%, what we used to do, and 18%, right? So this is a shift in a trade policy. What does this do? So let's talk about the nuance. Economic security. US lost its way out of having a capability of the commodities that were very critical for the sovereignty and the national security. So a lot of dependency that happened. The supply chain became long, interdependent. We learned from the COVID, the pandemic of the century, that we were way too focused in a one biggest node of manufacturing. We didn't become agile and resilient with our network. A lot of also the reciprocity, countries started to say, hey, this is unfair, I'm going to levy more tariffs on you, and that became sort of a policy game. And the last but not the industrial strategy. Protect IP, catalyze domestic investments and jobs. So this is something, the shift that we're looking at it going forward. So how does this work? So let me summarize. As of August 2025, you have a base tariff across the globe. Any goods that come in, we have a base of 10%. That's a minimum. And then we stack on top based on the country by country, some on the policy side, some on not so policy side. Again, this is how we can debate about it. You can have an opinion about it. I can have an opinion about it, and we can differ on that, and that's okay. But the thing is that you will continue to see this number being somewhat in a regression side going forward once the trade negotiation settles. So there are 2030 and beyond, when I look at it, there are three possible scenarios. Managing multipolar, meaning the block trades, the friendshoring, and standard bridges. You're likely to see this being sort of a trade routes. The network will be so critical commodities, and the designs will be absolutely onshore in US. And the other commodities will be where the allies will come together, and it will actually reform itself and will come in to work together. We will see, at least for the next 4 years in this administration and a future administration, that the targeted policy decision will be used to achieve using tariff as a policy decision. That's going to continue. And the hard fragmentation. This word I want to emphasize again, hard fragmentation, meaning that we will have the trade that's on the parallel track. Right? You will likely to see by 2030 that there will be the parallel track, the US-led allies, and there might be a second parallel track yet to be determined what that would look like. But we will probably have a trade that will run both parallel but intersect along the way. So what's the good news? I'm making it sound like a gloom and doom. The good news here, look at the projection, the CAGR, just supply chain growth by 2030, about 11%. No other industry, healthcare is about 9%. So there's a bright future, in spite of what we sometimes get overwhelmed with the information we consume. Good news is the outlook is strong. If I layer technological evolution onto this, where the investments coming into AI and advanced robotics and advanced manufacturing, this would be close to 18%. No industry will guarantee that level of growth for 2030 and the future decades. So think about globalization, industrial revolution for the 20th century to the 21st century. Mostly was driven by the physical movements of good, information, product, data. Large advanced economy interacting with each other. Today it's a global economy, emerging markets, right? Let's not mistake. We do not have an interest to isolate ourselves. 330 million consumer in this country, but we also need another 5 billion to consume the product and goods that get manufactured here. So the interdependency will continue to say, so don't let anybody tell you that this is a part of the deglobalization. In the middle, what you're seeing, and you're going to hear next 2 days, the AI. And folks, I'll tell you, if you think the AI is just a buzzword that gets thrown around like a .com was not a buzzword. We live today on the .com. But you layer AI, this is real. This is as real as it gets. We're working on 5 case studies. Our colleague here, Kruti, is helping building those out for us. Our research indicates this is serious. This is a serious business. The agentic AI, you're going to hear some expert talk about it. This is the future, how we do things. Right? 40% waste exists today in our food supply chain. 36% waste exists in our traditional supply chain. Waste caused by policy, bureaucracy, paper, fragmented data silos. I can actually deploy the agentic framework, and even if I rip only 10% of that, that's a $1.3 trillion in a bottom line saving. Why would I not make that investment? That leads me to my big question. Is American manufacturing making a comeback? And a lot of times this does not come out in a narrative that touches the truth. Newsbite questions, are we going to bring what American mojo in manufacturing in the 20th century into the 21st century? And the answer is, look at $1.7 trillion has been committed so far by companies and countries. By the end of the year, that number likely to be $3 trillion. Let me repeat that number, $3 trillion. Imagine that is not going to go in making nuts and bolts. It's all about advanced manufacturing. The commitments we're seeing are deep, fully executable, building the infrastructure, which is so critical, bringing technology to fruition, very technical. And I'm so pleased that right after my speech, we'll actually talk more about how one example of building infrastructure for advanced manufacturing, yes, certainly it's a drop in a bucket, but it's a sizable drop, and we're going to talk about that. Right? But look at just the simple investments. Apple made an announcement, $500 billion in February, added another $100 billion on top of it, that's 600. Numbers just keep rolling in. So we may not like how, but we must know why and how things are happening. So when we talk about the automation and advanced manufacturing, it's all going to be driven by AI and advanced robotics. It's about the skill traits, right? The CapEx in advanced manufacturing is an all-time high. Randy and I were just talking about earlier, right? If you think about the countries like Singapore, which build the same model using advanced system of governance, why Singapore is known as Singapore Inc., that came from little red dot to what Singapore today is. Korea, Germany after Second World War, Japan, all of these countries were the byproduct of rebuilding the manufacturing base to where they are today. And I think America is going through the transformation. Productivity, AI-driven productivity, sizable difference. Investments are continuing to, so follow the money. Look at the stock market and look at the investments coming in. You don't have to read through the tea leaves. It's clearly, the data suggests that that's where the biggest growth is anticipated. And obviously talent, you, my students, what a best time to be in the supply chain, going through the journey that you are on. And all of us, we need to become a lifelong learner because the world around us is changing. So smart cities, smart people, smart planet. With all these nuances and complexity and the news bite, we need to think about the city, which is our community. How do we really manage those resources in terms of people, the community, and living as sort of an integrated way? A big focus on smart city. Europe is probably a decade ahead of us. But I think you'll start to see that trends will start to occur in US, the people. Right, the inclusion, the safety, the dignified work in this high tariff-driven era for decades to come will be an important piece. Right? One of the things that high funding into the apprenticeship, which is the model Germany has, where you come and become tradesmen first before you actually go and get the education. And I'm a higher education person. I think there's a value in that policy. Right? How do we actually embrace that? Last but not the least, the planet. Right? When I feel like overwhelmed and I want to ground myself, I watch the video that I'm about to share. If you want to feel humble, just think about our place and how important and how significant we are when you zoom out and think out of your family, to your city, to your state, to the country, to the continent, into the planet, and then you're outside, you look at it, we're not even a speck. Right? I mean, think we all come in here with a finite amount of time to be on this planet, which is about 5.8 billion years in being. And I promise it will last even the human race were to disappear if we screw this up. Right? So people always talk about, well, we're going to destroy this planet. I said, no, we're going to destroy our species. Planet will heal itself in maybe 10,000, 20,000 years from now. Right? And remember, extinction is not new to the planet Earth. It has gone through several extinctions. And human species, as much as we are smart, and that's why my team of smart people, we need to really become smart. So I'm going to ground you with that perspective with this video, which always has been for my entire youth into this, one of my favorite people. Hope you enjoy this, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Let's play the video.
From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest. But for us, it's different. Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering. Thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization. Every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very... From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest. But for us, it's different. Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering. Thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization. Every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader.
Middle, so that should be okay. All right, well, thank you guys. I think I'm going to actually send this video out, but it certainly provides you the perspective, what I was talking about, grounding ourselves as the human species, to look beyond the day-to-day news bites, how much we consume, and let's focus on the future as a smart people, and let's build the planet smart. Thank you.